Healing minerals in the Bible. 10 years ago, I was bent over to the left and unable to straighten up. I could barely walk, and I was in pain 24/7. 6 months later, I was standing straight and was walking better and was substantially out of pain. That was the beginning of what has become a miraculous recovery, and it was brought about through diet, supplementation, and especially through supplementation with minerals. Look at these photos. You can see beforehand my face had shriveled. The bones had shriveled, the skin had shriveled, my hair had gone. Then after I started on the program, the hair came back, my face filled out again. Everything came back. You can see the neck is straighter, the shoulders are straight. And I put on a bit of weight, which for me was a good thing. So because of this transformation, I went back to my Bible and looked at what the Bible says about minerals and their relationship to healing. So most of the action in the Bible happened here, in biblical Palestine. And it happened around the Sea of Galilee, the River Jordan, the Dead Sea. These are all places that are well known and characterized by minerals. So the question is, did God have a purpose in this? Is there a reason why he chose a mineral-rich landscape in which to set the Bible narratives? So right back in the beginning of the Bible, we start with the Garden of Eden, which is beautiful, lush, idyllic, and fruitful. And we know, because the Bible tells us specifically, that it was fed by 4 rivers. And rivers bring minerals. There was the Euphrates, the Tigris, the Pishon, and the Gihon. So then I started to look at other places in the Bible which mention mineral-rich rivers and springs. And there's quite a bit of mention of the Gihon spring. Now, when I saw Gihon spring, I presume that is related to the Gihon River that fed the Garden of Eden, but I can't find anything that actually tells me that directly. Anyway, the Gihon spring, according to Wikipedia, is one of the world's major intermittent springs and a reliable water source that made human settlement possible in ancient Jerusalem. The spring was not only used for drinking water, but also initially for irrigation of gardens in the adjacent Kidron Valley, which provided a food source for the ancient settlement. Gihon is mentioned, the Gihon spring is mentioned in connection with Hezekiah. Hezekiah was the king of Judea from the late 8th to the early 7th century BC, and he is famous for building his tunnel, Hezekiah's tunnel, from the Gihon spring into Jerusalem to bring the water into Jerusalem. We can read about it in 2 Kings 20, and Hezekiah's tunnel ends at the Pool of Siloam. Now, the Pool of Siloam later became famous as the place where Jesus healed the blind man. Now let's look at Hezekiah's miraculous healing as seen in Isaiah 38. Hezekiah got sick. Then Hezekiah prayed, and the Lord promised him 15 more years. As a sign of this, the Lord made the sun go back 10 degrees. Then the Lord healed Hezekiah through a lump of figs. I think this is a very interesting story. So why did the Lord hear Hezekiah's prayer and heal him? I think there are a number of interesting reasons here. Firstly, Hezekiah's faith was 100% in the Lord. The children of Israel at the time were worshipping the sun god, and Hezekiah forbade this. and he removed the high places and broke the images and cut down the groves. And as Hezekiah rejected the sun god, God did this wonderful miracle concerning the sun and showed that only God controls the sun. Isaiah 38:8, Behold, I will bring again the shadow of the degrees, which is gone down in the sundial of Ahaz, 10 degrees backward. So the sun returned 10 degrees, by which degrees it was gone down. Also, Hezekiah destroyed the brazen serpent of Moses. This was the serpent on the stick that Moses held up in the wilderness when the children of Israel were being bitten by snakes. And we are told in 2 Kings 18:4 that Hezekiah had this broken into pieces because the children of Israel were burning incense to it. It had become an object of worship. Hezekiah had no objects of worship other than God, and he only looked to God for his healing. And as was already said, Hezekiah understood the importance of life-giving mineral water and had the water brought into Jerusalem from the Gihon spring. So the story of Hezekiah's healing involves prophecy from Isaiah and the stunning miracle of the sun returning. But in the end, the Lord prescribed a natural method of healing. A lump of figs. This is what God did with me. I often wondered when I was taking all these supplements and going through the diet, why didn't God just heal me? And then God showed me Isaiah 38 and showed that in this case God had chosen a natural means of healing Hezekiah, and it seems God has always done the same with me. Here's another example of minerals being used in healing in the Bible. This time it's the story of the Syrian captain Naaman, who sought healing from leprosy. Elisha sent a message to Naaman telling him to wash 7 times in the Jordan River, but Naaman was upset by this because he was from Syria and he thought the rivers in Syria were much better than the River Jordan. However, in the end, he changed his mind. He washed in the Jordan and he got healed. So the question is, could Naaman have been healed by washing in a Syrian river? I think there are 2 possible issues here. One is just faith and obedience. He was told to wash in the River Jordan. But maybe there's another issue. Maybe the Lord was using minerals for health. The Jordan River flows to the Dead Sea. It's full of minerals. So was the Lord using natural resources which he created and gave to us as part of Naaman's healing miracle, just like he did with Hezekiah? We've already mentioned Jesus healing the blind man in John 9, when he used the mineral-rich water of the pool of Siloam that had been prepared by Hezekiah hundreds of years earlier. And Jesus also used mineral-rich mud. Now that was strange, wasn't it? I always thought that was strange. Why did Jesus take mud and put it on the blind man's eyes? Was Jesus using the minerals in the mud? This is not to take away the spiritual element, of course. Jesus was the healer, and he was the one who brought healing. But maybe he chose to use something natural that God had given through his creation. These days, the soil in which our food is grown is depleted in minerals. Therefore, the only way that we can receive the healing properties of minerals is through supplementation. That's something you might like to think about. I actually wrote a free e-novel based on my own miraculous health recovery through God-given essential minerals. It's called I'm Sorry, Oliver, and you can download it for free at smashwords.com and barnesandnoble.com.